All right, let's get started. Good morning. Okay, so lift it off there into minor resistance right here. That low that it broke through. It's a bit subjective. I like to say that because it's not what's directly to the left. So let's see if there's anything directly to the left here. Scroll this over. Always start with the daily chart. And you see over here, this is what directly to the left. And if I can scroll that up a little bit more, I'm not going to do it now, but if you were to then go back and look at a 15-minute chart or a 5-minute chart, of course, in this higher time frame, see how these bars, these ranges and opens and closes are overlapping each other? There's going to be a little consolidation in that lower time frame that you would see. But in the higher time frame, this is what you see. In this time frame, you see nothing because it's one giant bar. So over here, as we expand the data, you see these overlapping opens and closes. You say, okay, that's not much of anything of significance, but the rest of the world is looking at this, because on the daily chart, then you don't really understand this part of why prices stop there or not at times. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, but through just my wondering, why is something that could be sometimes very far away, in this case, it's not that far away. Another thing that so many look at is even further what's to the left, and it starts to become ridiculous. I understand it because I did the same thing, but you start looking at something like this and like this together, and it's like, oh wow, look at all of that resistance that's over there. And then, you'll see at times, I'm not saying it's going to happen today, but then you'll see at times where it just goes through it like it's nothing. And of course, you scratch your head and you say, how is that possible that prices could have moved beyond all of that resistance? Well, it's because in reality, there's hardly nothing there. But okay, we got the 20 MA, that's subjective. We got minor resistance, that's subjective. There's actually a little congestion area there, which obviously we can't see other than those overlapping opens and closes. So that's the obvious stall point, and markets are right there, and momentum is slowed. No wonder. Who's going to want to push it past there? Besides that, we've got this, move up that went up into the close, very powerful uptrend that occurred on Friday. As prices moved up, momentum slowed near the end of the day, not a surprise. See the distance between the highs there. And now things are just kind of hanging out, right now, no big deal. And we'll all wait to see who blinks, buyers or sellers. And let's see what the gap looks like. I imagine it doesn't look like much of anything. Things haven't moved too much, but they're gapping up a bit. Let's see where that is. So spiders didn't quite reach that area on the gap, or what happened overnight. Maybe it happened earlier, I don't know, because this doesn't show everything that happened overnight. In any event, we see where the gap is, and now it's at 408, so it's gapping up a little bit, and that opens up the door to maybe during I get what I call the day session, that it continued to go up. Now, look at the hourly chart. You see how that crosshair is overlapping those opens and closes over there? No, just point to it right there. There's that minor resistance on the daily, and that's the reaction on the way down. So there was this reaction. Maybe it could have rallied a little bit after breaking the lows, right? But it just stalled. So that was bearish, and it continued lower until it got down to this support, down here. Now, support is Friday's low. And we can just throw that on here. And there's an unfilled gap below that. And resistance, we'll just have to say it's right there at 409. Let's call it 410 as a whole number. And then as we look at SPX, 4100, of course, there's going to be some large open interest there to come into play. Yes, let's get to SPX now. Look at the option chain, which I hate the way eSignal does it, but just to show you guys, I look at it on Interactive Brokers during the day and TC2000. But anyway, Jacob 4020, I have written down 4015, 4020. And surprisingly, it's got quite a bit of premium down there. So 4020, $1 by $1.15. All right. A second ago was $1.05 by $1.15, give or take. So it moves a little bit. So it's pretty good juice. So 40.15, still not bad. 85.95. And then on the upside, which I think is also a no-brainer, because I don't think the market's going to go that far, but I've got written down 41.40. All right, so you can see that is up here. I don't think it can get up there today. I just, it ran a lot for 3 days. The 20 is there, subjective. The minor resistance is there. And then it's got to get up here. So I don't think it's going to get there. And I don't think it's going to get down here today. Just because it'd be pretty far to travel. Now, news, I know there's a bunch of inflation stuff coming out during the week. I'd have to go back and look at today, but I know this stuff, maybe it's out already. So just be aware of that. Check the economic calendar. Internals are neutral, right? Thank you, McGraw. CPI is tomorrow. Breadth is neutral. Now, what we would have want to have seen to get, hey, you know what? Look, this is lower highs and lower lows. We know that the weekly turn here and all of that, but just from a longer term perspective of using these internals, if this was like from an internal market, internal point of view of reading these internals, this breadth gauge would have pegged plus 200 on this move up for 3 days. It only got near zero. So it's a start. We'll see. And the expectation based on that is that, yeah, there's going to be sellers here and it's going to it should pull back. It's less likely to have what we call a measured move, meaning like as this move down started and it formed this little stall and buy, and we could look at the day-to-day breadth here, the strength of this move. But this is what, sort of a measured move, a little bit more. And there's something else I spoke about in the letter this weekend was that, look, this turn, that's at support. Okay, common sense, look to the left, right? But it's not where the momentum was slowing down. Like you see the momentum here begins to slow and it begins to chop around a bit. Here, the momentum increased on the way down. So this was the start of the move. And then you had this big move down. And typically what happens for a larger bottom is, it stalls, right? Normal. And it comes down and it breaks the low. But it breaks it fractionally so that the distance between the lows is not that far apart. And, that is a much higher probability type of a low that the expectation is, okay, maybe this thing could really make a larger move. So we'll see if that happens. And what shouldn't happen by the end of this week is this green bar in the weekly chart being negated, right? It chops around, maybe stays at 4,000, which is a possibility. There's a big open interest of puts and calls at the same level, at that level. So I think that is probably a decent support level, whatever it's going to chop around, it looks like it's going to go down. Keep that in mind. And then other markets, futures, NASDAQ, hitting the 20, not up at this resistance yet. Looking at the Qs, where are they gapping? Where were they? So they were at about 309 and change. You can see they up into nothing actually, and then started to pull back. And so they're around 308 and change now. So a little bit of a gap up. I'd say pretty normal type of an open here, relatively neutral. The Dow, which has been the weakest. And again, look at the momentum. It starts with an igniting bar. It breaks through the low. And here's a concept of what could stop this from getting down to this prior low, because it certainly looked like it was going to go there. You see this topping tail bar that cleared the highs, and then it breaks the low. Well, it should go down here. Well, when you look at other markets, spiders, Qs, Russell, and so on, it's like, well, if they start going up, who's going to keep selling this? And you can apply that same concept to a stock where you may be short and it looks like, oh, it's going to go down there, but the market makes this kind of a turn. Well, sellers just back away. It's really the psychology of trading and what institutions and traders do on a day-to-day basis. Relative strength and weakness. You're long XYZ, looks fantastic. It breaks out. Market's running. Market reaches resistance, right? Spiders, Qs, everything's at resistance. Tick extreme, your stock's sitting there. That example of relative weakness. Odds are you better maybe cut some loose, tighten the stop. And Russell up against the 20, minor resistance, reversal on the weekly. Bitcoin, man, what a comeback of surviving from the edge of the cliff. I don't know if any of you saw this news. The guy MSTR, he sells 500 million of stock to buy more Bitcoin. That's commitment. Maybe that was him. I don't know. But, this guy's either was on the edge of going under and figured, hey, I better throw a lot of money at this thing, or he must really believe in it. Either way, sometimes, if you're in a bad place, you'll do things that don't make sense, but that is a monster reversal, and now we'll see what it does as it comes up into this resistance area. Over the last month or so, looking at this, I said maybe it can make a W bottom down here, and it's exactly what it did. You should think long, and those stocks that are related to this, think long, being buying pullbacks, and then we'll just have to see if it can get through this. All right, silver. This leads to a whole lot of other stuff, which I really don't have time, and I'll touch on it. So this Bitcoin going up, silver having this move today, makes sense technically. Gold is kind of like a bear flag, but it is at this resistance and testing these lows on the weekly time frame. But there's some bit of a conflict here, and you can see the currencies are up here a bit. Here's the euro. And you can see that beginning to rally within this downtrend after this little breakdown failure. And now we've got, the dollar beginning to pull back, which is so interesting, what happens in the markets and how certain relationships can decouple. And sometimes it's a decoupling, meaning it's something more intermediate term, and sometimes it's okay, it just happens for the moment or a few days. But anyway, dollar's pulling back. It's within an uptrend. Now, I didn't mean to do that. Short that like that. I don't know if I can fix it. Shit. Anyway, I sorted that by mistake. Where the hell did it put? Oh, here we go. That's there. So that's the 3-month, which is still moving up, and that's not backing off. And typically, the connection between this and the dollar is pretty tight. But you can see this way, this has been going up, and the dollar's been going up. And this isn't pulling back. So it's a little surprising that the dollar's beginning to pull back. And of course, that's why the metals are starting to go up. And copper had a good day on Friday. And now we see these starting to move up, and I think steel popped up a little bit. So I'm not sure what to make of it yet. Maybe it's just, going into quadruple witching and next interest rate increase, but it's something to keep in the back of the head for now. The 10-year is, well, doing nothing. And so you want to keep an eye on this because it breaks above these highs. Obviously, the market's not going to like that. But if it starts coming down, that'd be something that could keep this market, buoyant for a while. So I think that's pretty much there. You have it. Today I think isn't going to go too far. And let's look at, was it this put call? No. Daily day-to-day breath. So, this closed up plus 2,000 on Friday, which is good that it showed that kind of strength on Friday. Normally, you would have thought the markets would have gotten further than they did, but they did gap up. So that's one of the reasons. But as I said, we're looking at internals. With a move up off of a low like this, it's kind of like volume. That's to say, you would have saw like this on that up day. Anyway, we'll see how it plays out. I hope this helps, some tidbits of education for you for the future and what to look for today. Well, yours, Dan.
Good morning. Happy Monday. So the playbook that I'm wanting to predict here, it's playing out so far. Friday's close, I think, there's no reason to get out, going higher. Question is how much higher. Gap up came in. I still think we're higher. I think we'll be bullish today. Like Greg says, I just don't know how much. And then I think we're either going to continue tomorrow with CPI or that'll be our reversal day. So that's how looks like it's playing out so far. We have a ton of opens. They're all fine. If you have any questions on them, just ask me. Got a Monday morning, all the weekend trades, a number of things gapping over the entry that I'll be focused on at the open. But PayPal here, this has been on my core long list for a while. Now look at this beautiful breakout buy setup above the 20 on the weekly. Big nice turn here. So I was gonna give it as a third lock core long, and then I just said, let's just sell a 91 put for starters, but I do want to keep an eye on this for a core. We have two oil stocks, Hess and Oxy, that are gapping over the entries. Let's see what I have in this big list. This Pixie, I don't know what's going on, but it is volatile as can be lately. Look at this, gapping down, $10 from Friday's high. Unless you're an avid day trader, nothing to do on the daily. Race here, making the turn, deep retracement, but gapping over this red bar. We'll see 30-minute high maybe. Snap. It's opening flat here, Thomas. Is that a prior high? It got rejected there with an M top on the 15. I don't know. It's not a tier 1 to me. I think a lot of better setups. Nikola, remember I was asking why this thing is so weak, this truck EV company. And I was just reading in the journal today that the CEO the trial is going to start about him, SEC violations, lying about the capabilities of his product. I'm like, oh, that explains it. John Deere spending billions on, fraud, spending billions on automated farm equipment, which McGraw will not like, because McGraw likes driving his own tractor. So McGraw, just keep the one you got. Don't buy an automated one. Apple here, I was watching it all week. and it was unable to make the turn along with the cues and many other things. But look, today might be it. This is a nice gap up, bullish pre-market. So this 30-minute high as of right now is a long and a put spread. It's gapping up to resistance, but if we can take out the 30-minute high, I think we got a turn day. AMAT and LRCX were mentioned. Biden's restricting exports on some of their chips to China. Gapping down under Friday is bearish, but the daily is still fine, so there's nothing to do with that. BMY. BMY is gapping up on some positive drug news, no trade though. Adobe gapping down on a downgrade. 389. There's nothing to do here. Again, maybe day trade 30-minute low for gap fill, but the daily is not a short coming out of that base. W whiskey, we sold naked puts on this, or maybe a put spread, I forget. On Friday, my up alarm just went off, so let me increase the up alarm. All right, that looks good. Yeah, uranium stocks were moving last week. Now, ideally, it's run a lot from last week's low. Ideally, it would give us like 2 more inside bars, Thomas, and then break out. Roblox got a downgrade. That's a nice looking day trade short. Look, you're looking just at this 15-minute chart. You had breakout failure, pre-market gap under that entire end of day base. It's under the 20. It's a little sell setup now. That's a beautiful day trade short. Let's keep an eye on that. Like 5-10 minute low, whatever. But that's tier 1 day trade right now. Disney was in the news. All right, this looks fantastic. Making the turn here at the 50 and a buy setup on the weekly. Target 130 maybe. So Disney looks great. Let me put that in this bottom window. That's a tier 1. Looks great. With these Bitcoin things going, I was scanning them the other day. It's just you're chasing a little bit, but look at block. This could be the home run entry. Had a Climo on the monthly on support, high or low. Yeah, you just need to stop last week's low. I like Ether here. It's a failed head and shoulder, so which turns into a breakout from the right shoulder. So Ether looks good. OXM, I was watching all last week for a Climo. Let's see if I can set an alarm at 93.25. I just had an alarm go off on dunking. All right, so that looks great. We have a put spread that we're just in trail mode. And I wish I gave that one. There were so many of these turns at the 50. And then buy setups on the weekly. We're at half also. We got out of our Uber Put spread into strength on Friday, but we're still long stock on Uber. Let me set new alarms on that. You know, I always, whenever there's a Coke and Pepsi type of thing, I always look at the cousin, and I miss this. Look at this blast off day last Thursday. You know, look at that. That's a double bottom. Double bottom on the weekly chart. That would have been a nice entry. PayPal, we talked about. Snap. Yeah, Snap's on my list. We talked about ECL. I like this as a core. You got to give it a big stop, but it's a 1, 2, 3 on the daily, weekly higher low, monthly, Climo. Or maybe not a core, but you know, if we get 180, 190, we got all 3 time frames in agreement there. Oh, you know what I read in Barron's? That's what this stock is. Do any of you know what NSPY is? I thought it's pretty cool. It's a new product, came out in June, called Nighttime Spiders. And so what this does is it buys the spiders on the market close and it sells it on the market open. And I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool. I don't know why. It's, you know, it's Globex, it's a computer. I don't know why the S&P 500 is closed over the weekend. Like, why? Let it trade. You know, same with, you know, Bitcoin trades. So what's wrong with the ES trading? VGK, I wrote down a couple of these ETFs on Europe. They all, look at that, all these look very similar, but you know, when things get beat up, I'm a contrarian. So all 4 of these are European ETFs. The same when the euro went under parity. I said, all right, let's start looking to buy it. And you heard Greg said it rallied already. So I, you know, contrarian, it worked so far. Pool had positive mention in Barron's. Wow, I'm shocked that I don't see any gap here on a positive Barron's. You would think there'd be some pre-market activity. Toyota Motors is a Climo, but not great. There's CMP alarm. That's a beautiful turn. That's beautiful, beautiful turn right there. So CMP. That looks great. Oxy coming in. All right, Disney here. Disney looks great. I'm gonna get rid of Roblox here and put CMP here. Disney looks great. Let's buy 5-minute high, stop Friday's low. Actually, just buy it right here, it's fine.